Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to welcome you to the Cinema Conversations Conference organized by Modern Sudan Collective, Docomomo Sudan. I'm Mai Abusalih, the second chair for the 2024-2025 cycle. First, I want to start by thanking our team of organizers who have been working tirelessly over the past couple of weeks to curate and coordinate the conference program, including the sessions you'll listen to today, the workshops that took place yesterday, as well as the ongoing online film screenings accompanying the conference. We have an incredible lineup of speakers, and I'm really excited for their presentations. To begin, I want to give you a little background about our work. The Modern Sudan Collective established Docomomo Sudan in 2021, which is a chapter of Docomomo International, a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to the documentation and conservation of buildings, sites, and neighborhoods of the modern movement. We have with us Wido Quist, the Secretary General of Docomomo International, who will tell you more about the organization just in a few minutes. Our founding members were motivated to research and document Sudan's modern architectural heritage by exploring the wider socio-political context of how these projects were constructed. This effort also aims to critically engage with the work of the architects who designed these buildings, particularly since very little is written about Sudanese architects and there is a lot of oral history that needs to be recorded. Our research began by focusing on the capital, Khartoum, and we identified specific influences and themes within prominent buildings in the city, including how they were linked to the nation building post-independence, the geopolitics of the Cold War, the Pan-Arab project, diplomacy, as well as how tropical modernism was adapted to the local context in what came to be known as the Khartoum style of architecture. These intersections are really understudied and they are essential to informing our understanding of the modern history of Sudan. By adopting an architectural lens in our research of other disciplines, we aim to re-narrate history from new perspectives. So far, we've had over 50 contributors that have shaped our collective's work, including researchers, architecture students, photographers, artists, and other creatives. Each of our members bring in their unique individual ideas and interests, and we work together to develop them further. Our work has been featured in multiple publications, including Modernism in Africa by Berkhauser and Docomomo International. One of the editors of the book, Stein, is with us today, and she will speak more about it in a bit. Of course, I need to take a moment to acknowledge the ongoing conflict in Sudan since April 2023 that has had a devastating impact on people and the built environment. We've yet to fully understand the full impact, as each day we hear more news of atrocities committed and continuous destruction of cultural heritage. The situation has brought new urgency to our work, as many of the buildings we've been researching have been damaged in the conflict, buildings that were already struggling from neglect, as the previous decades have been fraught with political instabilities in the country. This led us to launch an online heritage monitoring initiative to track recorded destruction of important cultural and historic landmarks from the 19th and 20th centuries that are currently in active conflict zones. When the war broke out, many of our members were displaced by the conflict, and it took us a while to come together in a way that responds to this new reality. One unanticipated outcome is that we began to expand our work beyond Khartoum, as some of our members were displaced to safer cities like Atbara. We are currently working with one of the archives in Atbara and exploring new collaborations that aim to document and conserve not just the architecture, but also the archival material that is essential for its construction. Despite the ongoing erasure and destruction of our cultural heritage and history, we remain committed and hopeful that there is still a lot of documentation to be done, and we continue to develop our work and foster more conversations around architectural history. I'm grateful that you're joining us today on the second conference organized by our collective as a part of our Modern Conversations series. The theme of the conference reflects a part of the work on cinemas that our collective has been developing over the past year, which you'll learn more about throughout today. Thank you to all our presenters for generously accepting and welcoming our invitations. I'm sure everyone will find the presentations very insightful as they cover a wide range of geographies and carry many similar resonance, which is a wonderful opportunity to find new points of intersection.
Introduction, and even more thanks for your efforts in organizing this day together with at least Suha and Rahim and probably many more. So thank you all for that. Just for me, a few minutes to introduce better, if you don't know yet, Docomomo International. As mentioned, I'm the Secretary General. I'm very pleased to join this meeting online. Let's see. Yes, it works. Well, Mai, you said it already, but I cannot repeat it enough. Docomomo is a non-profit organization, and it's dedicated to both documentation and conservation of buildings and sites and neighborhoods of the modern movement. So documentation and conservation. And you touched actually already upon what Docomomo Sudan is doing, acting as a watchdog, exchange IDs. And I think that is a very good example today's conference you've organized. So it's fostering the interest in the IDs. So the broader sense, it's not only about buildings, it's also about cinema, it's about writings, it's about everything that goes around the ideas and heritage of the modern movement. And they link this responsibility towards this recent architectural inheritance. And of course, it has again to do with the buildings, but also with the knowledge. How do you bring that knowledge across and how do you share each other's responsibility? And then this is, as far as I may say, it's an amazing map, because since last December, when we had the International Docomomo Conference, another 6 working parties were established. So next to Sudan, where many of you are from, and the Netherlands, where I am from, there are 85 working parties all around the globe that are working within this framework of documentation and conservation of the modern movement. So recently, Albania, and Nigeria, Portugal as a separate working party, Lithuania, Montenegro, and Croatia have joined. So it's very nice. And every time, every year, there are new. Also Nigeria. Don't forget Nigeria. I'm sorry. That also joined Docomomo with a regional or local working party. And that is what actually Docomomo is about. Docomomo is not UNESCO, it's not ICOMOS. It's a bunch of enthusiastic people that join together regionally, either in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Sudan, in the US, wherever you are. People join together around modern movement architecture. So it's about local activities, it's about regional working parties, but it's also about global activities. And that is the interesting thing about Docomomo. We do things, you do things locally, we do things globally. Try to bring people together, of course, together with Betuta, our chair, and Sofio, who is doing the secretariat. And that's something we really started a few years ago, doing as much as possible, open access. So that's also why our Docomomo journal, and Mai already mentioned the latest issues. It is open access. It is available through docomomojournal.com. There's over 500 sorry, articles online, 2 special issues a year, and even from last year on, an open issue per year. So if you have an interesting topic which regards modern movement architecture, please go to the website, check out the requirements, send in your article, and we will do a peer review process, and we might get it published in one of those open issues. The 2025 version is open already. Very nice example started last year. Also about spreading the knowledge. What I know from my Dutch context is not what you know from your Sudanese context. I don't know. I know very little about Sudan, about the Sudanese context. So if we are able to publish, if we are able to have conferences like this, we can share the knowledge with each other. And that's also what we do with this book series. The Shared Heritage Africa project, a project done a few years ago already, started with Docomomo Germany, and one of the results is the Modernism in Africa book that Ria will address later on. So that is where Docomomo is involved. Initiatives we can join, we will join, we can use our joint powers. That's also what we do in the Concreto Academy, which is a completely different topic, but which is a European concrete architecture, also with thinking within the range of modern movement architecture. Education, you might have seen the manifesto on education that was presented in Valencia a few years ago. Docomomo really wants to emphasize the importance on education in general, and of course, from our perspective, on modern movement heritage in particular. Sustainability, the Frankfurt Declaration on Housing that we joined a few years ago, against demolishment and advocating the need of proper housing in city centers, mainly Eurocentric, but I think this has a very much a global outreach. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that in December, there was already the 18th International Docomomo Conference organized by Docomomo Chile. I think Horacio Torrent, the conference organizer, will be in your program later on today. So ask him about it. He will be still very proud and sure he should be. And already the next two conferences are announced. So I will also take the opportunity here to bring that to the floor in Los Angeles in 26 and 28. Athens in Greece is the location, even bundled with some activities in Skopje and Sofia. So just to wrap up, give you a few images, and it's not to feel you even more sorry that probably you were not joining the conference, but it was a very nice occasion, a very nice place, with a very nicely and friendly hosted by the university in Santiago de Chile. Over 200 people actively together, a student workshop, exhibitions, a lot of talks right below the Docomomo International Council meeting with many representatives of many different countries. And I think this picture was also used in the advertisement. A lot of people gathering together, nice weather, and most importantly, a bunch of nice people together. And I think that is what it's all about. When we join together around the topic, you just need friends, colleagues around you to discuss, to talk, and to listen to each other. And that is exactly what's happening today in the Docomomo Sudan or Modern Sudan Collective conference. So good luck today.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me. I will start my brief presentation with a confession and an anecdote. The confession is that I really do not know much about Sudan. And the anecdote goes to Sudan's eastern neighbor, at least, to Ethiopia, where my husband grew up in Gondar, which is the old capital of Ethiopia. And when he was a boy there in the 60s, he and his best friend never had enough money to buy 2 cinema tickets. They could only share 1 ticket. So what happened was that they would cast the lot who would get to see the first half of the movie. And so each boy only got to watch half of the film, and after the film, the idea was that they would recount the film with every little detail. So winding up with a full experience, a task that our children with their much shorter attention span would probably not be able to muster. But in any event, it just goes to show what a big part of cultural life the cinema was. And my assumption is that in Sudan it was a similar thing. So in any event, I mean, the reason I'm here is obviously the book, which came out last month. And developed in cooperation with Docomomo International, as Wido already explained. It was really a big challenge and task. We worked on it for close to 2 years, selecting case studies. We have about 60 case studies, which are all documented with a scholarly text, with good photography and with scaled drawings that were prepared from scratch by 2 people at Docomomo. And we already have had a lot of positive response to the book. We decided together with Docomomo, it was a conscious decision to make it available also as an open access ebook, because not everybody can afford to buy a 79 euro book. Even though I would obviously encourage you to get the book, because you do have a much better experience because of the large format and the great photography and the good drawings. It's much nicer for reading than looking at it on a small screen. Of course, the book is by no means comprehensive. That would have been impossible. We already have 416 pages, so there's a physical limit to what you could do. But if it does well, we hope to sell the first print run in perhaps the next 2 years. Then we're already thinking about an expanded edition. So perhaps we can include more material. We so far have 6 samples from Sudan, and I'm sure that there's more. And what we also did, we selected part of the content for our typological database of building types online, of which I'm also the editor. And it's in use at many libraries of schools of architecture, and the material thus is available to both students and teachers of architecture. Burgweiser being based in Switzerland, the resource has been relatively Eurocentric so far, but we're trying to address that. And hopefully we can include more material over the next few years. While working on the book, what was most striking to me was how much the digital divide that one always reads about between the West and the so-called global South is still in place. For instance, we had excellent photography, but sometimes we didn't know what it was. And the normal tools like Google image search often didn't yield very many results. For instance, I have been unable to determine who the architect of the famous Acropole Hotel in Khartoum is. If anyone knows, let me know. And also the Goethe Institute in Accra, a very nice building. I even wrote to the Goethe Institute. Do you have any idea about the history of your building? Unfortunately not. So standard information that would be easy enough to find if you were researching a building in Berlin or in New York was just unavailable. So quite interesting for me. But again, we hope to add this information in subsequent editions. What else? What was almost touching to me is how much response we've already had, even though the book only came out last month. I put a post on my personal LinkedIn account. I worked on this book and I'm so happy it's out, and I got so many responses. It's been unbelievable. I never had that kind of experience before with anything I ever did. and I've had this job for a long time. So that's been quite heartwarming. And as most of you will know, there's also a big exhibition coming up on modernism in Africa at the MoMA next year. So my assumption is that more ground will be covered and understudied topics will be documented. So all of these things I'm really looking forward to.